You ever wonder why shelves or your PDF files or whatever you got are full of tabletop role-playing games that they just never went anywhere, just never took off? And today, I am going to be talking about tabletop role-playing game companies and RPG content creators from the standpoint of someone who's been in and around the game industry for 40 years, on both sides of the counter, on both sides of the creator and consumer end of things. And I'm going to be talking about public relations a little bit. I am not a public relations guy. I actually have a degree in journalism, reporting, news, web, all the above. But I've also dabbled in public relations, marketing, and you name it. I've been around. You see some things. But the important thing is, and the number one thing here I want to convey is you got to maintain a positive image for your company, for your brand, and of course I'm also kind of coming at this from the perspective of someone who's trying to build a brand, build a community, build a following on social media, on YouTube. I've been experimenting with this for years, folks. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort sometimes. Showing up every day, posting consistently on, in my case, more than one platform. Actually, I'm blessed in that WordPress posts my blog on multiple channels at the same time when I hit post, which is nice. It's not spam, it's just it posts cross-platform to spread the word about the post. I don't feel like it's spam anyway. I don't know. Facebook, Instagram might disagree with me on that. But hey, YouTube is awesome. But yeah, positive brand image, guys. You don't have to do sketches, you don't have to do humor, but you can still speak positively about whichever game it is that you are making content for. You can speak positively about your game. You can speak positively about your content. You don't have to bring other people down to build yourself up, if that makes any sense, hopefully. I think that the most important thing you can do for yourself is to show up and try to be as positive as humanly possible every day. Now, that's not to say put on the rose-colored glasses and pretend that everything's okay all the time, because that's toxic positivity, and we don't do that either. In fact, here soon, I'm going to probably have a video about toxic positivity as it applies to the tabletop role-playing game industry and the hobby, because I see a lot of it, and it just kind of makes me scratch my head sometimes as to why people do that to themselves. But like I say, I've been around for a long time. I've seen game companies come, I've seen game companies go. I've seen a few game companies I really wish they were still around because they were making dynamite product, and then they just kind of dried up and blew away. And that happens too. But I also want to touch on, I made a video about Jason Bullman and Paizo. I think it's been a month or two now, but a while back. You can find it. I'm leaving it up. But I was kind of negative, and that is not the message we're looking to send, as someone used to say to me. I came down on him kind of hard, and I regret it, and yet I sort of don't, because it's again the same thing we're talking about here today, and that is you can't go out and alienate half your audience and then still expect your sales to remain solid. You know, at the end of the day, personal branding, corporate branding, game branding, whatever you want to call it, is about maintaining a good face, as the Japanese would say, saving face, and looking good for your audience so you can make sales. You know, and at the end of the day, some of us, like especially here on YouTube, are selling ourselves. I mean, we are the brand, you know, in a lot of cases. Now, if Lord willing, my channel blows up and gets huge, and I can actually hire staff, and eventually I have to think about retiring because I'm getting younger. You know, I will hire staff, and I will probably have to change the brand, and I will have to build up my team in a way that makes it so that the channel can carry on and the content can carry on without me being at the helm. That is so far off in the future, we're not even going to go there again. It could happen. I'm not saying it won't, but yeah. But back to the Bowman thing. For those who don't know, Jason Bowman, a while back, came out, and it was last year, came out and said, you know, if J.D. Vance has ever bought a copy of my game, and I won't say which game it was, but, you know, if J.D. Vance has ever bought a copy of my game, he needs to send it back. Because he doesn't want fascists playing, because Jason Bowman didn't want fascists playing the game. Kind of implying that, you know, J.D. Vance being a Republican and so on and so forth. And again, I came out, I said a lot of things about that, and personally, from my point of view, I would not have done that. I mean, I've stuck my foot in my mouth before. Ginny, I'm sorry. But you know, I've stuck my foot in my mouth before, and I've had to come out and apologize, and I've had to come out and retract things and delete things and make amends, you know, because as hard as it is to mend fences and build bridges, it's so much easier to knock them down. And I don't want to get to a point with this channel, with what I'm trying to do in the industry, with the stuff I'm trying to write, with my blog, with everything. I don't want to get to the point where all I'm doing is negative content, where I'm just bashing on things. Now, do I see things occasionally that need improving? Yes. And I've been hard on Wizards of the Coast before, and I probably will be again. Just because I've had some serious skepticism about the quality of Dungeons and Dragons ever since they announced the new edition in 2022. Yeah, 2022. Before the great Dungeons and Dragons open game license debacle of 2023 ever went down, and even more people lost faith in them, I was already kind of starting to shake my head because I saw some things I wasn't real keen on. But I, again, personally, if I were in charge of the company, which that ain't never going to happen, but if, you know, I was in charge of Wizards of the Coast, there are a lot of things I just would not have done. Period. Just would not have done. And still won't do. And hopefully, if Jeff's Gamebox gets big enough that I actually have a staff and we're doing more than one project at a time, and we're actually a game company, you know, then, you know, maybe I can apply some of this stuff, and that'd be great. But if I were in charge of Wizards of the Coast, there are just a lot of things I wouldn't be doing, and I wouldn't be saying. Because again, the minute it gets out on social media, the minute it gets out on YouTube, the minute it gets out anywhere. It used to be, you know, we had game trade magazines and conventions and things like that, so if somebody made a mistake, it was pretty permanent. Like, it was out there, and we all knew about it. Nowadays, it's even more so. If you say something on social media, if you say something on YouTube, it's there. It's all over the place. Everybody knows you said it. And thanks to the Wayback Machine and some of these other archiving sites, once it's out there on the internet, there ain't no getting it back. And as a content creator, as a game company, as a game designer, you have to be aware of these things now. You just do. Because if you go and you shoot your mouth off, you're going to get called out on it by somebody. And see, that's the other thing about the internet is if you poll 100 people on the internet about anything, and I literally mean anything. If I like chocolate ice cream and I say I like chocolate ice cream, somebody's going to immediately jump into the comments and get on the keyboard and be like, oh my God, what about vanilla? What about strawberry? Oh my God, you must hate strawberry. Well, I never said that. I just said I like chocolate. But I guarantee out of any given 100 people on the internet, at least one of them is going to dislike something you post. I don't make the rules, guys. It's how it goes, seems like. But yeah, Mr. Bowman came out. He said some things. He said, oops, I wasn't just talking about Republicans, or I wasn't just talking about this, that, and the other. And he backpedaled, and he eventually did make something of a retraction, but he's been super quiet since then, as far as I know, or as far as I've seen. Like I said, I regret being so negative, but at the same time, I want to see that company do well. I want to see your company do well. I want to see your game do well. I have a whole shelf full of games that I guarantee most role players have never heard of in their lives. Cyber Ninja XDO, or Cyber Crisis XDO, Marauder 2107, Raven Star. I like Raven Star, it's a good game. Don't Look Back, Terror is Never Far Behind. I mean, I have all these, what would be considered obscure role-playing games that they just never took off. They either weren't doing enough promotion, or, and this is a whole separate video, but they made some bad business decisions, and yeah. But, they just didn't get behind the game, or they just didn't connect with the audience, or they just made a comment somewhere down the line, and now the company's not there anymore. And we saw this happen. A really great example of a bad example is the company that adopted the name TSR. And since then they've actually changed it, I believe. But yeah, there was this gentleman named Justin Lanassa who came out and made a lot, and had staff that made just some awful bigoted comments. And I mean, obviously bigoted. And if you look on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, if you can still find David Floor, and if you go on YouTube and you look up my friend Tom, Tabletop Taproom, he talked a lot about the Lanassa thing. But yeah, that's a great example of how not to run your game company. Right there is new TSR. They really dropped the ball, and I mean, they dropped the ball, and they had some IP. They had some things that Wizards of the Coast hadn't quite latched onto yet, and they could have made a mint if they would have had the right people in the right place at the right time. And instead, they chose to take on a very unpopular view, and I don't mean just unpopular as in I didn't like it. I mean unpopular as in they were literally acting like the fascists that Jason Bowman worries about. I mean, there are things you don't do, guys. There are just things you don't do. And there are a lot of things you should do, again. I will be humble enough to say that I don't have a lot of product out on DriveThruRPG yet. Part of my problem has always been that I back games that have IP that is very locked in. and there's no open game license for it. There's no third-party deal that can be found easily. And I back these games. I won't say they're bad games, because they're not. Like Star Wars. Star Wars D6 is like one of the best darn games ever. Star Wars D20 still really epic game. Can't write adventures for them because I don't work for the companies that own them. And heck, now I don't even know if Star Wars is still out there. Like, I mean, Fantasy Flight was working on it. I don't even know if they're still around. I don't even know if they're doing anything. So there's that. But, you know, I latch onto games like Power Rangers RPG. I love Power Rangers RPG. I don't think I'm ever going to print anything for it because Renegade Games has a pretty ironclad license on that, and that's just not going to happen, man. You know, but that's another example of just some do's and don'ts, and I'll get into this more in another video because I love talking about the industry, and I love talking about different game companies and kind of what they're doing. That's just something I enjoy. And I do, when I blog, jeffsgamebox.blog, yeah, when I blog about it, that's some of the stuff we talk about, you know, is all these different companies and all these different games and all these different approaches to games. But yeah, unfortunately, if I wanted to publish something, I'd have to strip all of the IP out of it. And at that point, the adventure just kind of loses some fizz. Like, I mean, I could take a Star Wars adventure that I wrote clear back in 1988. Yeah. I wrote a Star Wars adventure clear back in 1988, and I could strip all of the Star Wars specific IP out of it and put it out, but it's not going to look right. You know, I mean, I could make a generic D6 space adventure or space opera adventure and recycle a lot of my old Star Wars content, but the problem is I can't use any of the Star Wars terms, and that's kind of what made the adventure what it is. Again, you know, it makes it a little hard to get stuff published, and that's my whole thing. But I'm working with more open license games these days. I'm messing around with more open license games these days, and I will have adventures coming out. Dragonbane is a huge thing with me right now. Icon's still a huge thing with me right now, even after I don't know how many years. Never get tired of Icon's RPG. So Steve Kenson, if you hear this, you're still my hero, man. Yeah, Icons. There are certain games I get very rabid when I talk about them, and Icons is one of them. Anyway, sorry, I'm a little off topic. I'm rambling just a little bit. You know, building a positive brand image on both YouTube, social media, and even on DriveThruRPG is so incredibly important to your success on those platforms and sales. Like, in the back of your mind, you've always got to be thinking, you know, how can I connect with my audience more? How can I connect with my people that are buying my game more? How can I connect with gamers in general more? You know, right now, Dungeons and Dragons is still the biggest elephant in the room. Like, if you're not making D&D content, life is rough. In fact, I even recently messaged a friend of mine and I said, man, I'm thinking about just shucking the whole thing and spending the $180 that I don't really have. Spending the $180 to get D&D 20, 24, 25 just to start making D&D content again. Because I want the views, I want the clicks, I want the popularity. You know, I want to get monetized on YouTube. I'll take AdSense money. Heck, I ain't proud. But at the same time, there is something very disingenuous about doing that, and I want to try to avoid it. I mean, it's not that I don't like D&D. I have all the D&D 5e books, at least all the basic books. Like, you know, Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, Tasha's, Volo's, Mordenkainen's, and so on and so forth. All the basic core books that either build, modify, or the game. But I can't get into this new D&D. I'm sorry, and Nairobi, if you hear this, I don't hate you. I don't hate 5e. I don't hate D&D. I just don't like the newest D&D that much. And I really don't want to give money to people who kind of openly hate me. I mean, not me specifically, but guys like me. I think you know what I mean. Because yeah, that whole thing again flew around as part of the OGL debacle of 2023, and you know, the Kyle Brink apology tour. The Kyle Brink apology tour, you know, and guys like me can't leave the hobby fast enough, and so on and so forth. Which is total BS, by the way. I will be here for as long as people can put up with me. But again, this goes back to brand image, and this goes back to, you know, selling your game as opposed to selling your ideals. If you have the most radical ideals in the world, if you are way out there from the mainstream, great, good for you, awesome. Just don't mix it in when you're talking about your game. Jason Bullman, you know, if the guy is the most just absolutely raging far left liberal whatever, great. I'm all happy for him. Just don't try to sell your game or discourage people from buying your game based on that. Be your brand. Be your company. Have that image, you know. I'm trying to think of a really great example. I mean, there's so many. Troll Lord Games, Castles and Crusades. You hardly ever hear them say anything in public that doesn't just relate back to their game, doesn't relate back to their brand, doesn't relate back to their image and make it look good. Heck, they give away free PDF copies of the Castles and Crusades, Keeper's Manual, Player's Handbook, and Monsters and Treasures. I have nothing but good things to say about Castles and Crusades. Love that game. Actually, I'm a big Amazing Engine fan, which I don't get to really talk about Amazing Engine much because I don't do a lot with it, although I definitely have the books. It's a good game. Honestly, I love it. But it's a little harder to find an audience for that kind of pulp action, old school Saturday morning serial live action kind of thing. You know, pulp adventures and just kind of that more like 1900s action type adventure stuff. It's a little harder to find a crowd for that, I think. But again, the power of social media and YouTube right now is immense. And I think it's only going to get more so as time goes on, as more games go digital, as virtual tabletops become more prevalent. We're going to see people's image, people's brand image, companies' brand image become more and more and more important as time goes on. I know it's a huge concern for me. It's always been a concern for me. I've seen what happens when you don't hold your brand image in high regard. I've seen what happens if you carelessly make a comment. I mean, even in jest, and Lord knows I do this a lot. I stick my foot straight in my mouth while I'm joking. It happens. I mean, it just happens in casual conversation in public. my family, my wife will attest to the fact that my foot is magnetically attracted to my mouth. She's watching this right now. She's gonna laugh at me. But yeah, you know, you have to be careful, guys. Guys, gals, everything in between. You just have to be careful. And I mean, I still make mistakes. I do. I know. And again, Jenny, if you see this, I'm sorry. I don't think she will. But that's really what I've got to say. You know, and that's cool. This video is part of the Jen Navarro bad video challenge. I'll put the link down in the description for it, along with the link to my blog and several other things that are fun and cool. I also mentioned my friend Naigobi. Please go check out her channel. She is awesome. Naigobi is one of the best D&D 5e content creators I've ever met in my life. She is amazing. She has explained why she won't switch from 5e. I've talked to her here and there, and I really think she's awesome. Guys, please go check out Naigobi's channel. I can't say enough good things about her. And she's a perfect example of what I've been saying through this whole video. You know, she's sincere, she's authentic, she doesn't go out of her way to rub people the wrong way on any given topic. She's not trying to be controversial. She's not trying to shill for anybody either, for that matter. And again, that kind of goes back to that whole toxic positivity thing. Hi, Nemo. I have a cat over here who's making all kinds of interesting sounds. Yeah, Naigobi makes all kinds of... Well, hello, peekaboo. Yeah, suddenly I have cats popping up everywhere. Yeah, Naigobi makes a lot of interesting content, and she's a really, really great creator. But she doesn't shill for WotC. She likes D&D 5e. She likes D&D in general, even the new stuff, and that's great. I support that, you know. And like I said, I was this close to just starting over and doing D&D 5e content because those guys are making money. Those guys are getting the clicks. They're getting the views. Anyway, if you've gained any value from what I've had to say today, please like, share, subscribe, especially the subscribe. I need about 940 more of y'all. And thank you, each and every one, for anybody who's tuned in. If you made it this far in the video, please comment the alien emoji down below to let me know that you got this far. I just think it'd be funny. Anyway, I appreciate you. Have a great day. Do the things that bring you the most joy. And I'll see you in the next video.